Just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
That's right. This is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 126. Mike Biseglia, Alex Vanessowitz, and the New York Knicks today introduce Jalen Brunson in front of the passionate, loyal New York Knicks fan base. No media allowed. And the Brooklyn Nets still spinning their wheels. And if you're on Twitter every day, you can see and read a new report about Kyrie Irving, about Kevin Durant, but it all leads back to nowhere because it's hell. Alex, how are you?
I'm good. Oop, as I rip my computer out of here, but I'm good. The cord, by the way, if anybody's watching on YouTube, Bad Weather Fans on YouTube, make sure you download our episodes on the podcast apps. That's the best way to help us out. Let's get that out of the way right now. If you really love the show, download our episodes. Knicks press conference with Jalen Brunson today in front of season ticket holders and no reporters allowed. And I'm totally okay with that. We'll get into that in a second. But I'm doing well, man. Had a good day. It's the hottest day of the year today, probably 9,000 degrees outside, especially in New York City.
It was hot.
A lot of air conditioning going on in the city today. So, yes. I remember de Blasio had something where he said, he's like, try to keep your air conditioners on 75 a couple of years ago. And everybody's like, are you freaking crazy?
What do you sleep on? What's your temp you sleep with?
Sleep is probably 68 to 70, depending on the size of my blanket. My summer blanket, I usually do a little bit more.
You get that low?
Yeah. Yeah, it used to be low. It used to be lower. If I was because that's only because Hannah, my wife, doesn't like it cold. I could sleep in like 60.
Well, that's what my point is. I could sleep in 28, and this is a very common thing in relationships.
Yes.
Man and women.
Women are just colder.
Women typically like it warmer, and men like it colder. So I'm actually recording this. My wife's on a business trip. I'm alone. So it's gonna be colder tonight. I'm very excited for the sleep tonight with the temp.
I love you, wife, but I'm looking forward to sleeping in the cold tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna try a 72. I think we're gonna see a 72.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah. No, women are always colder. It's like you go to a restaurant in the middle of the summer, like I need to bring a coat. So or over a little sweater. I might get cold inside. I'm like, what? But it's literally all women. So, I mean, whatever. Anyway.
So the Knicks today, Alex.
Yes.
The Knicks today. Oh, boy, they tickled me today. So they decided to introduce Jalen Brunson, which is great, as they should.
Right.
He right now is their star free agent that they have brought in. He has
I've heard that.
Right now, we're in limbo with Donovan Mitchell trade. It has not gotten done. There's been 872 different rumors. 872 different formulas to come up with the best bet and what Danny Ainge wants, et cetera. But today, Knicks introduced their new point guard, but in Knick fashion, they don't allow the media in there. They only allow season ticket holders, which, of course, I thought was comical. I thought was pathetic, but I thought was on brand with the Knicks, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been as big of a deal if they had press conferences with Leon Rose prior to this, but he never even had an introductory press conference for himself, which I never cared about. But then as the years are going on, and especially after last season, and especially after the draft, and especially after everything that's going on, I kind of wanted to hear him talk. A couple, 2 months ago or a month ago, like, all right, well, you did all this on the draft. What's your plan? You know what I mean? What are we doing here? Or just talk to me and tell me what you're thinking. And like, just give me some reassurance that everything's going to be all right. Something like that. But today for the Jalen Brunson press conference, given the fact that Donovan Mitchell trades rumors are out there everywhere, I had absolutely no problem with making this all about Jalen Brunson, not making it about Donovan Mitchell, because if those bloodsuckers in the media, the Bermans, the Bondis, all of these guys out there, they would have made this entire press conference prying about Donovan Mitchell when this is Jalen Brunson's moment. His dad played for the Knicks. He's coming home to the Knicks. He's from New Jersey, and he signed back with the Knicks. However you want to make it that they did it. You didn't like the way they did it. I didn't really love the way they did it. But you know what? This is his moment. He's coming to his team that he grew up liking. And this should not be about Donovan Mitchell. And you know the media, the bloodsuckers out there will make it all about that. So I had no problem with that today. And I have a feeling that you disagree.
Yeah, well, I disagree on a couple fronts. First, I think the Knicks are full of shit because I think they go out there. This is Jalen Brunson Day because, truth be told, the Knicks management is a bunch of wussies and don't have the balls to confront the media, and then they hide behind it's Jalen Brunson Day, and this is where the Knicks have the Knick fan by the testicles. The Knick fan is so fucking jaded by the media, and they love to hate the media. They love to go against
rightfully so.
So then they use the fans like, let's invite the fans in here. Let's make it Knick fans only. We know the reaction that we'll get from the Mark Bermans of the world, of the Bondies of the world, and let's placate it to the Knick fan versus the media, and then they get you there, and they got you there. Let me be real, okay? Knick fans have told me this for a while. They tell me there is no harder place to play than in New York, but if you make it, you're an icon, you're a god, right? The fans are tough. The media is tough. It's just part of it. So here's Jalen Brunson. Welcome to the Knicks. This is the hardest market to be in. But you know what? It's your day. Let's get the media out of here. Don't tell me this is the hardest media. This is the hardest area to play in. This is the hardest area to be in. And then at the same time, tell me that the media can't come in because it's this guy's day. Either it's not that difficult or all y'all are full of shit.
I hear you. I totally hear you and get where you're coming from. I just feel like Jalen Brunson deserved a moment for it to be about him. And that's, I mean, I'm repeating myself, but I totally respect where you're coming from, especially given the fact that this management has not made any comments, has not had a public press conference, had a couple softball questions by Mike Breen at the end of the season to Leon Rose on a taped MSG interview. So, and that's a joke, and it's becoming more of a joke the more mistakes they make and the things that they do in the offseason, and the fact that they're not winning anymore. They won the first year, so everybody's like, all right, whatever, don't talk, who gives a shit. Now it's like, all right, you're losing, what's up? So I that's what I'm thinking. I know a lot of fans don't care, and that's fine, and I respect that too, but I think they should have spoken around the draft, after the draft, like every other team does. There's always a press conference after the draft, there's a press conference after the season, there's a press conference before the season on media day. Those are the only 3 times you really need to talk the whole season, unless you're introducing a big free agent. So I don't know why they didn't talk after the season. I don't know why he didn't talk at the draft. But tonight, for Jalen Brunson, I had absolutely no problem with it.
Well, the issue is because they keep hiding, they keep disappearing, which is a Dolan thing. Like, right. This is his track record, and this is what he's doing, is that now they can pick and choose these moments where it's Jalen Brunson Day, but it keeps pushing the ball down the road, kicking the can where there's no opportunities to speak, and then they will never come. Now, I will say all this with the same side of, I think Leon Rose is doing a good job, and ultimately it doesn't matter, right? If he's getting in the guys he wants and they're going to win, that's what it all comes down to, and that's where the Knick fan will turn. Trust me, the Knick fan will turn fast and then be like, where are you? Where are you speaking? But so I want to make sure to say that, because I don't want to hear people saying, oh, the net fan who just wants to hate on the Knicks. No, I think Leon Rose is doing a good job, right? And I think
you have been consistent with that. You have been consistent.
And if Donovan Mitchell comes here too, most likely I'm going to agree with that trade as well, because they're bringing in a bona fide star, right? So I agree with that. I just think, for me, I'm starting to get pretty annoyed at Knick fans like celebrating the idea that the media wasn't in there, because that's like some big win that they couldn't come in there. For example, if the president of the United States went and did something and there was an event and he said, the media can't come in here to ask me tough questions because it's been tough. That's limiting speech. That's limiting information. Like, now we're going to this point where
a little different public figure voted into office. Yes, a little different, bigger, but I get your point.
More important. But the idea of we're just going to control the narrative. We're not going to allow tough questions to come in here. And I would believe that, I think the diehard Knick fan probably doesn't like that. But there's a lot of people that want to hear those tough questions that aren't going to get answers. And again, I feel I don't feel bad is not the right word, but Mark Berman wasn't allowed to do his job because the Knicks don't want to allow access because they cannot handle tough questions and decided we're not going to go that route. And we'll just say we're going to stop it. We're going to make this an event. We'll get Knicks fans to all rally together, make it seem like the big bag media is here to ask the tough questions on Jalen Brunson Day. Meanwhile, we'll go smile on the front row and we'll get away with another one and kick the can down the road until we finally get Donovan Mitchell. And then we'll be okay to say hi to everybody because now we got our star and now it's time for the good vibes and not the bad stuff that comes because we brought in a top 20 NBA player in the league.
Yeah, and there were also a lot of rumors that this press conference was postponed. MSG Network posted a tweet that it's going to be at 6:00, on the 19th, whatever, I think it was MSG, whatever Twitter account put it out, and it got deleted. So fans started to wonder: is a Mitchell trade coming? Is a Brunson press conference postponed or whatever? And then an email went out, and I posted it out on Knicks Central on Twitter that, hey, here's the link, YouTube link, whatever. People started tweeting me like I thought it was canceled. I'm like, no, well, we got an email. So I mean, listen, I bought tickets before, so I must be on like some kind of email blast list, and I got it and I posted it out and it was out there. And then all of a sudden you hear about that it's a season ticket event, and guys like our boy Triple M and Moselle and Julito, and they're all out there at this event and taking pictures and stuff like that, and you're like, okay. And it was bizarre because earlier in the day, they're like, oh, the press is not invited. I'm like, what are they just going to have a Zoom conference? Like, that's weird. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Bill Pito was interviewing him on some softball stuff. I'm like, oh, sure. Come on. But I'm like, all right, fans are going to be there. At least that's cool. I get it from the aspect of you don't want to make this about Donovan Mitchell because what's going to happen. The Knicks are sensitive to the media because the media treats them like garbage. And sometimes it's rightfully so. But when the Knicks are doing well, they get no respect. And when the Knicks are doing poorly, they're piling on. Even when the Knicks were doing well 2 years ago or a year ago, whatever the amount of years it was, the season before this past one, they were not being nice to them then either. You know what I mean? They were trying to spin stories into little things into stories. You know what I mean? Like it's the Manish Mehta kind of the reporting for the Jets back in the day. Now Berman does that with the Knicks. Isola used to do that. Bondi does it. You know what I mean? They're not covering them in the right way where it's like, I get it. They hate Dolan. I get it. The Knicks have a lot of people who just think that they're a dumpster fire and Knicks for clicks sells. But at the same time, I don't blame the Knicks being like, you know what, dude, like, fuck off. Like, you're all right. You know what? You're not coming. I remember they used to have press conferences 10 years ago, 10 years ago. Isola would be invited and they wouldn't call on him for a question. He'd be there and they're like, nope, next, you, not Frank. Nope. And that's fine. I don't blame them because he was an asshole. You know what I mean? So I get it. But today, and like a month ago, he should have spoke. And before that, he should have spoke. He should have spoken to press when he got hired. Just talk and hold up a basketball, and who gives a shit, but don't hide when things are bad. But today you could have had a press conference. I mean, not today. I'm sorry. You could have had a press conference after the draft and just tell us what happened. But today it was about Jalen Brunson, and I don't mind it, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think the Knicks lose that option when they hide all the time. That now it's the one time where it's like, well, it's a good day for Jalen Brunson. Well, you haven't spoken for the last 2 years. You've lost that right. Like, you're never available. You've lost that right. You got to come out and speak. And it's not Jalen Brunson's fault. It's not his fault. But that's why I come back to this original point. And I said this before. You're in New York now. There's going to be tough stuff. This is not Dallas anymore, right? $100 million contract. This is part of it. Yeah. We talk about how when you come to New York, the responsibility is different. You come to New York, you get the responsibilities different. Frank Isola is around. All these guys. This is it, man. It's a little bit more difficult than it was before. So tough shit if your day has to have a couple of guys ask questions that are going to be, and you get your standard answers. Hey, today's about Jalen Brunson. We're excited to have him here. We're not going to get into any of that. That's all stuff in the media for you guys to talk about. There's nothing there. Today's about Jalen Brunson. Those are the questions we're going to take. And those are the answers I would expect them to have. Obviously, they're not going to go out there and go, yeah, thanks for the question, Mark. Good one. Right now, the holdup, I was just talking to Danny on the phone, and the holdup right now is we're trying to figure out if it's going to be 4 unprotected or 3 in a swap. But happy to answer your question. Does that get you the information? Of course, he's not going to say anything, as he shouldn't. He's in the middle of a fucking negotiation with Danny Ainge. But you just have to come up there, have some stones, and deal with it. You lost that right when you said no to the media
forever. And that's just
Yeah.
Dolan's way of doing business, man. You know,
I get it. And they also don't want to, but I it's hard to give them the benefit of the doubt where you're saying, and I get that. I totally get that. But it's also they're in the middle of a potentially franchise altering trade that determines Leon Rose's future and Tom Thibodeau's future and the rest of the staff, executive staff hierarchy of this organization that's not named James Dolan or his right-hand man, whoever that is in his inner circle. Everybody below that are on the block if this Mitchell trade doesn't go through, or if and let's say he gets traded to the Heat for like 2 picks and Harrow, you're like, holy shit, you guys are fired. You know what I mean? They have the highest amount of draft picks to offer the Utah Jazz. And if they don't get this done because of Obi Toppin or because of a draft pick in 2027, that is going to be a big problem. And I understand if they don't want to go up there in front of reporters who are going to try to pry or go up there in front of reporters and try to like get in Jalen Brunson's head. I know he's a pro. He's been around the NBA a couple of years now. He knows how to answer these questions, but he is not in on the inner circle yet. He doesn't know what's really going on. And he would have to go through extensive media training in order to go to this press conference. And Leon Rose or somebody like that, Worldwide West or anybody, like you don't want them to just say the smallest little tiny comment of,
I get that.
Hey, have you talked to Donovan Mitchell yet? Are you trying to trade for him? Like, well, we don't want to answer that. Oh, well, the Knicks saying they're not interested in Donovan Mitchell. And Danny Ainge moves on. Or the Knicks say, yeah, we talked to Danny Ainge. Oh, the Knicks are talking to Danny Ainge. Now the leverage, and it just gets manipulated by the media and the internet blogs and the podcasts and the TV talk shows on ESPN. And it's just, is the juice worth the squeeze today? And I don't think it was, but I also hear your point about the credibility. They have no credibility to stand on for that. So I get that. So I'm kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth. No, I don't mind them not talking today. It's just where.
Yeah, I hear you more on that part of it. Like to me, I can understand this rationale. Let's use Jalen Brunson Day as a shield to protect us from the questions we don't
give
want
him his moment.
Where I think people are full of shit is when they go that they really care, like that he has his day. I think his dad does. I think it's probably nice
Jalen
for a few minutes. Yeah. And Jalen does, but like ultimately,
does Leon Rose give a shit? Yeah,
Leon Rose. This is what Leon Rose is thinking. We have to fucking get this over with. Mm-hmm. I don't want to deal with questions. How can we figure this out? Leon Rose is not thinking like, this is great. I've known Jalen since he was in diapers. No, he doesn't give a fuck. He wants to win games, and he's got to go out and make a big deal to prove to New York, to the Knicks fans, this is what he's doing. So that's reality.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's Jalen Brunson's day. Oh my God, it's Jalen Brunson day. We got to do what's so great for Jalen Brunson. Let's go out and celebrate that. Now the Knicks fan can feel that way, and guys that went there should feel that way. They should be excited. They just signed a point guard that they feel can build on for the future and feel good about. Of course, if I was a fan of the Knicks and I went there, I'd be excited. Give me the selfie. Let me put it on Twitter. Let me get my 87 likes and feel good. I get that. I'm into that. But the Knicks were using that. That was a pawn for what
and
their
they
bigger
used it as a way to sell tickets as well, which is smart for their people who are borderline season ticket holders or people who've had partial plans or full plans recently, like Triple M, our boy, who's been on the show. And he told me that they were, they invited him because he had tickets and he's trying to buy more. And they were using that as a way to wine and dine them and get them in the door and make them feel like a part of the organization, which is what they are as a ticket holder. Yeah, exactly. They should. So I get that, but you also could have had a front section of press. Of course. And then have the next 10 rows of season ticket holders. I understand that. I don't think maybe not. I don't think Berman or Bondi would want to be around some fans who'd be heckling them, which would actually, I would kind of pay to see that, but at the same time, but at the same time, I'm going to repeat myself again. I don't mind it today. I don't mind it today.
I gotcha. And I'm sensitive as a Net fan because I hear Knicks fans saying all the time, like, oh, Kevin Durant went to the Nets because he couldn't handle the smoke. That's New York. Meanwhile, the fucking Knicks don't let media in the press conference.
Touche. I have no rebuttal for that. Touche. You won. I think you just won.
What do you want me to tell you?
I think you just won.
Now,
I have nothing else. End of conversation. So anyway, Jalen Brunson.
Speaking of Kevin, well, I don't. Fuck.
Really quick.
I don't even want to say
before we get to the Nets. Really quick, we'll talk about them in 1 second.
I have more on the Knicks I want to say too. But go.
But a funny thing. They asked Jalen Brunson who his favorite player was growing up, And he said it wasn't his dad. It said it was Latrell Sprewell and Allen Houston. It's just funny because it's like, yeah, my dad was my favorite player. I loved watching him sit on the bench and come in when we were down 30 points or up 30 points. He was an adjective. Honest. He's our Brunson now. That guy at the end of the bench. Oh, Novak was our Brunson until he came in and started lighting it up. Or Copeland was our Brunson. He was always that, which is hilarious. It's like, yeah, I'm not looking forward to being like my dad. I mean, yeah, he's in the NBA. That's incredible. But, no, I want to be like Allen Houston or Latrell Sprewell dunking on guys in the finals.
That's who you need. I mean, you rather him live up to that level. That'd be worth the contract and not, obviously better pro right now. Brunson is than his father.
I'd say doesn't take much.
Yes, no, but I mean, he was a good pro, but it's not 100.
He's a backup.
Brunson's part of your foundation to be.
We hope
you could argue your first best player right now if you wanted to. I mean, you could have that conversation
if you want.
But I'm not, because I don't want to lose sleep and I don't want you angry. I don't want to be in a bad mood. I'm feeling happy. It's Tuesday night.
Also,
we're recording.
Another interesting thing, they had an opening montage of showing all these Jalen Brunson highlights and this shot and look at this shot, and he was in the conference finals, and they did a video of. They edited the video. One shot was him passing it to Obi for a dunk, and another one was passing it to Robinson for a dunk. Mitchell Robinson for a dunk. So fans are now starting to say, "Well, does that mean Obi's not in the trade?"
Oh,
like, no, he's just in a video montage. And then I was laughing. I was like, "Well, RJ Barrett wasn't in the video, so maybe he's traded." It's just a video. It doesn't mean anything, but it's still funny that they chose Obi Toppin, which is interesting.
And there is the self-love for players on your roster. You definitely build up more of a value for them than what the league views them as a whole. And people getting into these debates about like, well, I could give up. I can't do Grimes. And it's, okay. Yeah. We could get into that, but you're also trading for a top 20 player in the league. So tough shit.
And give the example. We talked about this earlier. Give the Kobe example. I mean, the Kobe example.
The who example?
The Kobe example. Was it Kobe? Yeah, with the Bulls.
When Luol Deng. We don't want to give up Luol Deng.
The Bulls and the Lakers had a trade in place, and the Bulls didn't want to give up Luol Deng for Kobe Bryant.
When guys are on your team, you feel a connection to them, and you feel that they're going to be bigger stars than they are. Let me tell you something. The second Donovan Mitchell enters the Garden and is on the Knicks, the hype machine in your brain is going to hit overload, and it's going to explode with excitement. Where if you're going into the brain thinking Quentin Grimes is going to be like this great rotational pro, what are you going to do when all of a sudden you have a player that people outside of New York know and heard and is a bona fide star in this league?
And Nets fans know him too. Guys like
stop it.
It's a big. Let me ask you a question. Fans that I debate with about how they don't want to give up the young players and all the picks. Okay. I can rationalize you saying, I don't want to give up too many unprotected picks in the future. I can rationalize that, but you got to give up at least 4 and a couple protecteds, right? So you're going to get up to 6 or 7 that way, right? Mm-hmm. We can debate all day on that, but bottom line, Knicks will give up those picks, right? If they have to, you would think. What fans are like, I don't want to part with Grimes. I don't want to part with Quickly. I don't want to part with Toppin. What is the ceiling of Emmanuel Quickly? What is the ceiling of Obi Toppin? What is the ceiling of Quentin Grimes? If you can't vehemently tell me that it is better than Donovan Mitchell, then trade them.
Do it in a second.
What's the ceiling of Emmanuel Quickly? Give me a player comparison.
Cam Thomas. I don't.
Lou Williams. Let's say Lou Williams, right?
Lou Williams.
Okay. Obi Toppin. What's his ceiling? You think?
Man, he's a tough one because
people say Sean Marion, but that's ridiculous.
Sean Marion.
It's one of the best players in the NBA.
Wow. That's my whole point. Like
number one pick in fantasy drafts for a lot of years.
Sean Marion. I don't know how I've had any like all NBA teams on his resume. Yeah. But I mean, Sean
benefited from Steve Nash. He benefited from Steve Nash for sure.
No doubt.
Like Amari. But
no doubt.
Still.
But I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Okay. But not and Sean Marion.
Grimes ceiling, who knows?
Yeah,
I'm putting you on the spot here. I get it. But at the same time,
Mitchell.
But you can't. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to say it's not Donovan Mitchell. Go. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, that's all. I've got my cat like biting at my ankles right now. So as I'm wearing like real men could be crazy cat ladies too.
I'm wearing a Duff beer,
which is funny because you and I have been in sync with shirts. Like if I wear a Nets shirt, you're rocking a Knicks shirt.
Mhm.
If I'm wearing a Mets, you're wearing some form of Mets. And like tonight, we just went off
Yeah.
sports apparel and just
Yeah.
went with, I don't know, this stuff.
Regular shit. Yeah.
Yeah, regular shit.
Sports apparel, you know.
Mhm.
So anyway, and another thing that I want to talk about is that I heard Bontemps and Windhorst talking about this on their podcast. I think the Hoop, whatever it is on ESPN. And they were talking that the draft day trades may have hurt the Knicks in a way where Danny Ainge had these, this deal with the Timberwolves, in the works, probably on draft day. And he's got him. They're negotiating in secret. And then he sees the Knicks like, whoa, they have how many picks now? Okay, so let's make this Gobert trade. And then we know who's going to come calling for Donovan Mitchell now. And they have so many more picks. So like maybe the Knicks actually could have taken one of their draft picks and picked a player, whoever that player may be. Just because I'm not going to give you a name of a player doesn't mean they shouldn't have picked the best player on their board. Okay. And then maybe they could have traded for Donovan Mitchell for less than what they're going to have to pay now because they have more. It's very simple. So that's a thought that I didn't think of.
Or are you saying in a way he saw this and was like, oh man, I know if I make this deal that this is going to hurt the Knicks in the next negotiation because I just kind of,
and it can hurt the Knicks because the Knicks have more assets to give now.
So Danny Ainge was thinking in advance, hey, playing a little chess. If I make this deal, I know that the Knicks now, they can't just give up 2 or 3 lottery picks because I just did a 4-pick swap or four picks with Minnesota. I can't expect for anything less because Donovan Mitchell's a better player than Rudy Gobert.
And the Knicks have the picks now. Yeah. And we can just keep this going.
And he knows they have and he knows they have the picks.
Yeah.
Right. They've acquired them. So he knows that. Yeah. I thought there was a really good, and that's a really interesting point. There was a really good, I didn't read the article, but I did see the headline from Fred Katz when he said like, the Knicks and the Jazz on paper makes sense for a good trade. The problem is the two guys making the deal are two stubborn SOBs.
Right.
And that's what's making this difficult because none of them want to give an inch, even though they both know like, hey, the Knicks have what we want. The Jazz obviously have, the Knicks are like, we have the star that we want. This is the deal, but there's probably some ego on both sides.
For sure.
Like, I'm not giving in. I'm not giving in at all. And I told you before, I've been listening to all these Knicks spaces. And one of the things was like, I know you're laughing, but one of them was like, Danny Ainge, just give in already. This is coming. Like, why are you doing this? Just give in. And I'm going, why the fuck would he do that? Yeah. It's his job to see if he blinks first. What does he care? It's July 18th, July 19th. The season doesn't start until October. What incentive does he have to do? He can just wait.
Yeah.
Just like with Durant. There's like it's July. Things are going in months. There's no need to make trades right now. And it sucks for us as fans. I mean, it sucks for you wanting to know what happens with Donovan Mitchell. When's he coming? And it sucks for me with all the uncertainty with the Nets. But we're kind of just stuck in this weird time because it is the summer and there's no need to make trades.
Right before media day, we'll start getting answers. Before media day, before training camp, like with Melo and the Oklahoma City trade. Melo didn't want to waive it, but the Knicks said, all right, show up to camp, bro. And he was like, all right, fine, I'll go to clubs.
Right.
And, just keep an eye out. Windhorst brought this up too. He said they're getting hung up on now, but keep an eye out with the contacts the Heat have within the Jazz organization. David Fizdale was just hired there as an executive. Dwayne Wade is part owner of the Utah Jazz.
So crazy.
There's a lot of connections there where if push comes to shove, I know Ainge and Riley hate each other with that Celtics Lakers kind of old school kind of thing, but
it's just so fun to see that like kind of play out all those years later.
Yeah, but at the same time,
for me, not for you, but yeah,
Dwayne Wade might be like, "Yo, man, come on, let's fuck Leon Rose." And fuck the Knicks. Let's they got Hero, they got a couple picks. They can give us maybe this Strauss guy, and I know he's not that great, but like, listen, you got Hero, who's a good player. He can shoot. He could be our centerpiece for now and sell some tickets while we're tanking. I know he's going to be paid or he's paid already, but still, listen. There's still other teams, or the Heat get a third or fourth team involved and something can happen. The longer this goes, the more likely something like that can happen. And Knicks fans have to stop being so damn cocky that the Jazz are going to come back to them, because there's no chance. There's no guarantee that the Jazz are going to come back to the Knicks. Even if Woj is saying that the Jazz are going to come back to the Knicks, there is no guarantee that the Jazz are going to come back to the Knicks. Woj also said in July 1st, you can look up the tweet, that the Utah Jazz are going to build around Donovan Mitchell and they're not going to make deals. Woj and Shams, unless they're announcing trades, are just mouthpieces for these organizations and the agents.
Yeah.
Okay, they're just saying what they're told. So they can be saying right now they're going to come back to the Knicks. But guess what? If tomorrow the Spurs, I'm making up teams, the Spurs, Heat, and the Grizzlies come to the Jazz and say, we have this big 4 or 5 team deal ready to go, they'll be like, all right, man, fuck the Knicks. I'm going to go back to them like, hey, Knicks, what do you got? And they're like, no, we're taking this deal. We're getting like 17 picks from all 4 teams. So,
which is kind of disappointing in a lot of ways with the Woj Sham stuff, because everything they say now, and I think all fans are like this, you take it with a grain of salt and you start to analyze it, because you know it's not like inside information. It's more given information, which is inside information, no doubt. But there's always a reason for it. And it's not just like, here's the news that broke, let me share it with you. It's I'm going to use the media to get what I need to get on either side of a negotiation or something happening. And that definitely now changes every way that you think of something, right? Or Woj and Shams, you're just looking for what that trade is. And it's harder now as a fan when you're reading stuff to know, like, is this a legit rumor? Where did this come from? Does this guy or girl know this? How did they figure this out? And it's almost like Shams and Woj got so credible that things started to go backwards, because that information now you know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when Woj says something, he's a mouthpiece for Sean Marks. And now any net fan that hears what he has to say, you take it with a grain of salt. You know, it's not like, oh, wow, did you hear that? This is where things are in the negotiation. No, this is the Nets trying to gain leverage. And then you hear it on the other side. You saw it completely with the Kyrie Irving stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It was Woj and Shams going back and forth until we finally got the deal done. And Kyrie, I guess, in a sense, lost. Although now things have shifted because Durant says he doesn't want to be here with the Nets. But it was, I'm not saying they're not credible, because they're beyond credible. It's like,
the most
but they're
credible.
it's just the fans now know where the information's coming from, and you can't take it seriously at all. And so even though they're credible, at the same time, it's not credible, if that makes any sense.
We paid too much attention to it, and that caught on to them. And 10 years ago, 7 years ago, they can say anything and we believe it. But now we're believing only when Knicks and Jazz have a deal in place. It'll be done soon. Then we'll be like, oh shit, it's done. Now we know. Bottom line, just like the Nets want to get as much as they can for Kevin Durant because he's a superstar, I want to pay as much as I should for a star player to trade for Donovan Mitchell, and stop fucking around and get it done. It's as simple as that. This is what a star costs. Give up the picks, give up the players, and get it done. Stop fucking around. I'll keep saying it. Stop fucking around and get it done. It's okay to pay a lot for a star. He's 25, 26 years old, 3-time All-Star, future Hall of Famer. Get the guy on the team. It's that simple, Mike. It's that simple that it's hard.
Man, I hope you fuck it up.
They're going to. They keep this going. They're going to fuck it up. Somebody's going to, the longer this goes, the more of a chance there is for somebody to come in and have 2 or 3 teams involved, other teams involved, and make some complicated trade and make it happen. And that's what the Knicks are playing with right now. Sure, it might all work out and it might be great. And I'm not saying it's not going to work out. I'm just saying it's a dangerous game you're playing right now. And if the Knicks show up game 1 and this is their roster right now with Julius Randle and all they have is Jalen Brunson and Isaiah Hartenstein, I'm going to be fucking annoyed at this point.
Man, I have a weird feeling that if this Ben Simmons rule didn't occur, like Donovan Mitchell would have been on the net
right now,
because the Nets the Suns would have had the picks. There would have been a 3-team trade. Mitchell would be on the Nets. the Suns would give up a bajillion draft picks to Utah, and then KD's on Phoenix.
And where's Kyrie going? Wherever.
That's a different scenario.
Lakers
that,
for Westbrook, and that's it. They buy Westbrook, or they have Westbrook, whatever. It would happen. Yes.
That from a trade standpoint makes the most sense. Phoenix gets their star.
Mm-hmm.
The Nets get a younger star that at least it's not KD, but you're like, okay, we got Simmons, we got Mitchell, we've got a core. Like,
right.
Look, we've got a core.
We're going to win 50 games, 45, 50 games. We're going to be good. Let's see what we can do.
22, 23 and 25 years old. Let's see what happens. We can build around it, move forward. And then the Utah gets their bajillion picks. That fucking rule.
Which I don't get it. I don't get the rule. Why is that in play? I don't understand the point of that rule.
It's just
Can you
explain
explain it to me?
I used to know it. It's just to limit. I don't remember.
Limit the amount of young players on a team that are good. Like,
yeah,
it's silly. It's silly. It's like actually silly.
It's
why guys like LeBron.
Of the trade.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's an unintended consequence that has occurred from this, and this wasn't the idea of it. The idea of it is that you can't try to get these young contracts or whatever it is back, but this is an unintended consequence where Simmons came here because James Harden demanded a trade out. So now he's here, and the Nets can't make this deal. But it benefits the Knicks. I mean, it definitely benefits the Knicks because the Nets now to make this have to do so many moves. Like, you got to get Simmons to one place that allows this to happen. It's like it's almost like when you're you have a Rubik's cube and you move one piece to another place, and all of a sudden the fucking thing's all over that. You're like, holy shit. So I matched the green row, but the whole rest of this thing is destroyed. I'm fucked.
So I hear you.
And Kevin Durant's not the thing for the Nets. I'll end with this on the Nets part of it. If you're the Nets, you got to just wait and see what happens. Don't trade him to trade him. You're better off just letting him sit there and not play. And if he changes his mind, suit up. Let's go. Let's do it. And if he doesn't and he just wants to sit there, shame on you. I would say tough shit. We're going to wait till we get the deal that we want. And then you play that game out, because any return that you get is not going to be that great anyway right now. So why make a trade to make a trade? Wait. Just wait. See it. See when a team gets more desperate and is in the mode to win a championship and make the deal then. There is no point to do the trade. And Sean Marks has done a lot of things incorrect over the last couple of months, but I'll say for this point, you're in the shit now. Go all in on the shit. Don't give in.
You made the deal with the devil.
Give in.
Finish the deal. You can't cut up the deal with the devil in the middle of the deal.
Right. When a deal opens up, we're like, okay, now we're in business where we can put some pieces together and we've got a functioning organization again. The problem is the team top down is a disaster. Ownership sucks. Yeah. Management sucks. The players all suck.
Coach
so you
sucks.
Put all that together. Yeah. No one can come together. The coach sucks. It's like if we were all rational, we go, guys, you realize
we all suck.
This is the best situation for us all here. I get last year sucked, but we should all come together and give it a try. Let's give it a try. So Mike Biseglia can say he saw it. No, we're too dysfunctional to have that thought. We're all too egotistical to figure that out.
They fucking hate Kyrie that much. They had enough of him, man. They didn't want to pay him big money. They said, go find somebody that will, bro.
Yeah.
And he came back with his tail between his legs. He didn't get the contract. So what does he do? He opts in. So he's like, all right, well, you wanted to go, but you opted in. So now you're fucked. We'll pay you. Just go the fuck home. We don't want you here. And Durant said, I want out now. And they're like, oh, fuck.
And that was my fear. And that was my biggest fear. And is why I said you have to give him the contract, because this is the consequence. And I was right.
Yeah.
And in my head, I said, they can't do that. But what I didn't realize, Alex, is just how much they dislike him.
They fucking hate him. Yeah.
And that's the part I couldn't, because I'm not in there every day. So on my vantage point, I'm like, yeah, it sucks. I'm sure it was a pain in the ass, everything you had to deal with, but we got to run it back. We got to see what happens. And in their mind, they're going, you weren't in my day to day. Don't care. Don't care if it derails the title chances. I'd rather own a team that's scrappy and fun and fights hard, and I can enjoy my nights. And that sucks as a fan. I mean, that sucks for the fan base, but that's real.
And Nick Friedell, right? That's his name, the Nets reporter for ESPN, Nick Friedell. I know a lot of Nets fans hate him, but he made a point on TV the other day where he's like, listen, if the Nets stuck to their guns and said, Kyrie, you're not going to be a part-time player, it might have been better for the Nets on the season than him coming back halfway, because what it did was just throw a bomb into that locker room, a bomb into that organization where he's coming back, he's not coming back, answering questions, he's not coming back. And then the thing with the mayor on national TV where he buys a ticket to the Garden or the Barclays, wherever it was, they're playing the Knicks, and he shows up and he's just, it's just like, dude, just get a vaccination, dude. You know, and it's just, and they're just sitting there like, what is wrong with you, man? Just show up. Like, you know, just go. Like, he made it worse. He made a bad situation worse. And there's probably a lot of people in the Nets organization. Like, listen, we're both people who think that you should get vaccinated, right? Let's not go back to this old debate, but we're both people that think you should get vaccinated. But we understand, you know, if you don't want to get vaccinated, I don't want to speak for you, but I think I know. If you don't want to get vaccinated, you don't want to get vaccinated. It's your choice.
Right.
But guess what? There's a lot of people out there who think if you don't get vaccinated, you're a fucking asshole and you're a piece of garbage who doesn't want to protect public health. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there's a lot of people that do. And there's probably a lot of people within the Nets organization that believe that. There's a lot of people that had their jobs around Kyrie showing up every day. There's a lot of people who dependent on them for ticket sales, for just anything in general, merchandise, whatever it is. And he fucked them, you know, and they might think both. And it's just to the point where it's like, 1 year it's a birthday party. 1 year it's you want to go to the bubble. Then you try to blow the bubble up by saying, hey, we're being on display during this whole thing. It's like, dude, you voted for the bubble, yes, and now you're saying no. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, they're just like, I just get the hell out of here, dude. You know, they had enough.
Yeah, what I can't surmise in my head is that everybody within with the players within the organization do like Kyrie Irving. So
they say publicly, we don't know. They're not going to be like, fuck True. Kyrie Irving, and they're going to play with him. See him. But I think
Alex, I think more of it isn't dislike for Kyrie. I think there's something about the Kyrie Durant relationship that is annoying.
Yeah,
I think
they're
there's
too
something
tied.
about that, and I think that comes back to what we heard from Goran Dragic last week when he talked about that it was just about the stars and not about the team. So I think maybe individually they were loved. Like, I think those net rookies love these guys because they showed them the ropes. They showed them how to be pros. They showed them how to be better basketball players.
Yeah.
But there's something not right. And I think more it's like from the veterans that felt annoyed. And like the rookies are kind of just like stargazing in a sense.
Right.
But there's probably guys like, to me, the Blake Griffins of the world, the Patty Millses of the world, the Joe Harrises of the world.
Aldridge, yeah.
Those guys were probably like annoyed by it, like, because they know what it takes to win, and that they were kind of like, we like you guys, but this is so much. But I'm on the record. I'll say it again. Bring it on. Bring it back. I want to see it because I know if they don't, I know there's at least a chance to win a championship. When they're gone, it's gone. It's over. Like, there's no chance.
And it's crazy how the two biggest chips in the NBA that are going to decide the entire offseason and maybe next season in the NBA revolve around the Knicks and the Nets.
Yep.
Donovan Mitchell in the Knicks trade and Kevin Durant in the Nets and Kyrie Irving on the Nets. Those three players might be holding up the entire NBA offseason because other teams are sitting there like, hey, Utah, or hey, you know, whatever team, right? I want to make this deal. And they're like, yo, wait, we might actually have a chance at Donovan Mitchell. So I'm going to wait on this random player trade.
Exactly.
You know,
that's true.
Maybe I can have this. And, you know, and it's just wild to me. Like, this is all on a macro level. It's wild to me how, like, some dude at the end of the bench in Denver can end up getting traded in a 5-team deal and end up in, like, Portland because Kevin Durant wanted to get traded. From
money and numbers all work out where things happen.
Right. And now this guy has to uproot his family because Kevin Durant didn't like the way the Nets treated Kyrie Irving. It's mind-boggling to me how that happens. But that's the world. That's a business world. That's what you sign up
business. For. Yeah, they say the NBA is a business. You have to understand that. It's like the most cliche thing ever, but it's super duper true. You don't know where you're going to be. You don't know what's going to happen. Look at Spencer Dinwiddie. Free agent. I'm finally a free agent. I've earned this. You know, I've played so well that I'm going to make myself $20 million. All right, I'm on Washington. That's where I want to go. I want to be with Bradley Beal. Traded to Dallas. Like
halfway
okay.
through the season. Yeah.
Right. Which worked out. But the point of
Yeah.
the business,
You
all
can't
that
buy a
time,
house when you're an NBA player. You can't buy a house. Yeah. Unless you're buying a house in your hometown where you know you're going to come back there every offseason. You can't buy a house in the city you live in. Even Melo with no trade clause got traded, so it's crazy. It's a business. And just like in baseball, it's a business. Juan Soto now on the trade block.
Mm-hmm.
Turned down a 15-year, $440 million contract, which sounds insane because it is.
15 years is absurd.
When you're 23 also, which is insane. But this is a guy who's been a world champion. He's one of the best players in baseball already at 23. He's going to be a Hall of Famer if he keeps this up. But right now, that average contract is probably, they said, like 10th or 12th in baseball. And what is that going to be in 10 years? And he's going to be Juan Soto. It's not that crazy of a deal that he turned down. And that's why he's like, yo, I want to get traded. And then, then you got the Mets and the Yankees with the money like that are looking for, the Yankees, can trade for Soto, but then they're going to have to not sign Judge, and I know Soto has 2 more years, but he wants an extension now. If wherever he gets traded, if it's going to the Yankees or the Mets, he can get traded to like a random team who want to rent them for a year, sure, but, and then trade him in the offseason. But you can't have an outfield of Judge, Soto, and Stanton with those kind of money with the Yankees at the luxury tax. They don't want to pay it, The Mets, Steve Cohen, he's like, I'll pay that shit. I don't care. He's trying to win some championships. The Yankees have won some championships. I know they haven't won much over the last 20 years.
They're ready. They're desperate to win. I think
the Mets will pay the luxury tax right now to get this championship right now.
2 parts of that. One, the NBA contracts. This is what the NBA loves, is that they get these short deals.
Yeah.
Then they get out of them. And then because things have moved, they get back into even more money. So instead of signing,
and then the drama,
deal, it's a 3 or 4 year deal. Like look at Dame Lillard, who signed 2 years, $700 million or whatever it is, $120 million. So Soto, you're right when you say the point, 15 million for 15 years for 40 in 10 years from that now would be a bargain. And of course he knows this.
Yeah, he's only going to get better.
And I think from the Yankee standpoint, I really believe they were not planning to go into the Soto thought process now. I think they were probably like, we'll deal with this in the winter.
Yeah.
And that it caught him here is a tricky one because like you're saying, Aaron Judge is having this incredible season.
He's
and there's
tailed off
only
a little
so
bit.
much.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do. But to now have this in the middle and like, let's say, for example, the Yankees didn't win the World Series. That changes their viewpoint of how they want to approach the offseason with Juan Soto. Let's say the Yankees won the title and Aaron Judge had this incredible playoff. Like that then changes your view of, well, maybe we don't need him. Maybe we need just certain other pieces here and there because we just won a championship. We don't have to do that. But the fact that this bomb came right now is tricky. And I do believe that the Mets now being involved in deals that they probably would not have been in the past does play a little bit into the Yankee mindset. Now, if I'm running the Yankees, I don't think it ultimately should if you don't think it's the right business decision, but it's probably playing it in there a little bit. And if the Mets are serious and just like Donovan Mitchell, the Mets would have to give up a ton of prospects just to make this deal go through.
And they have them.
But other teams have them too. Like this is not just like a Met. Like there's going to be.
See
how this plays out. Will be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers, they have a lot of money tied up in like Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. You know what I mean? They have a lot of money too, but they have a lot of money tied up already. The Mets are on their way up with tying themselves in money. Scherzer has big money, but it's not that long of a deal because he's old. Lindor is an insane contract. Marte's paid. DeGrom is going to want to get paid this offseason where he's opting out. Nimmo is going to have to get paid. So Alonso is going to have to get paid in 3 or 4 years. These guys got to get paid. And it's a lot. But you know what? A guy like Steve Cohen, who's a rookie owner or second year, he's trying to this is his second season. He's trying to win some championships. Guess what? If he wins 2 or 3 rings or even just one over the next 3 years, he's not going to give a shit about that money. Maybe in 10, 15 years, he'll be like, all right, enough of this luxury tax. Let's try to get a better budget going here. But right now, let's get it.
What kind of deal will it be? What do you think it ultimately is? Because I would think you would want.
I think he's going to want 10 years. I think he's going to want 10 years because he wants to double up and when he's 33 and get another
10
deal.
$1 billion.
10 for $1 billion. Yeah, straight up Billy. I think. What's like 50? What's Mookie Betts' contract? He's got the biggest one, right? Let's go.
I'm not sure.
What do you want to guess? What it is?
What the biggest? What Betts' deal is?
Yeah.
Is it like
10,
12, 4, 420.
No, 12 for 365. So that's pretty huge. And then Trout probably got a bigger one, right? Mike Trout. So let's see that one.
Baseball's so funny how these long deals. If you ever this will just make you laugh.
So Trout's got the 400. So Trout is $426.5 million. Like he had to give him that 0.5. Like
if you ever look at like the biggest deals in the NHL,
12 years for Trout, by the way. Yeah,
they're
not even close, and they're not even guaranteed.
That's not the sport. If you're good at between that and anything else, I mean, obviously, if you're great in it, you're going to be, Well,
it's like Kyler Murray. Why did Kyler Murray play football? Now look at him; he's trying to get paid, and he had a terrible playoff game. And the Cardinals like, yeah, I don't know, man. Why don't you just play that out? Even Lamar Jackson can't get a big deal. I mean, they will eventually, you would think, but even if they get $150 million, $200 million, they're not going to see every cent of that. They probably will see half of it.
No, the big contracts are going to be Joe Burrow is going to make an insane amount of money. And Justin Herbert's going to make an insane amount.
Those guys, yeah. And Zach Wilson one day, hopefully, yes. Let's hope.
He's going to make an insane amount of money. And Daniel Jones is going to be a backup somewhere.
Making an insane amount of money. Chase Daniel money.
Making $2.5 million, which is still pretty good.
It's fucking great. Even to make backup quarterbacks to make $10 million a year, man, because it's important. Like, listen, if you have Patrick Mahomes and then you have a really good backup that's getting $10 million, and let's say Mahomes like sprains his ankle and he's out 2 weeks, and somebody can come in and step in
last year. Yeah.
What?
Which it was like, I don't know. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, but he did miss a couple of games.
Yeah.
He was hurt.
You need somebody to step in, Matt Castle's not there anymore, but somebody could be there. You have to step in and just be the backup. Matt Castle was the best, where he was the backup at USC, and then the Patriots drafted him like, well, he's good at being a backup. Let's bring him in. And he was a backup for Tom Brady and played a season after Brady tore his Achilles when they went undefeated.
And then made $1 bajillion.
And they went 11-5. And it's funny. Everybody's like, well, look how great Belichick is. They still went 11-5 with Matt Castle, and Bill Burr, the comedian, always jokes about this on his podcast. He's like, that's a 5-game decrease. That's pretty bad. They went from undefeated to losing 5 more games. That's a lot right in the NFL, and that's right. It's an incredible point. We always praise Belichick for that, but when
you start with such a high bar of being perfect in the regular season, that's what will do.
You lost 5 games with the greatest team of all time. If you look at it that way, took some wild shit with Tyree and the helmet catch to beat them. So. Well, anyway, we're touching all avenues here today.
That is. Thank you guys. Again, this is on YouTube. Please, if you're listening to this via podcast, you want to see it on video, head on over to YouTube, Apple, Spotify,
everywhere.
Please download the podcast. It does make a huge difference. It does really help us with our numbers. You see us charting all over the world. This is the stuff that makes a difference as we continue to grow. 126 episodes in. If you really want
Denmark, our people in Denmark.
If you want to just hear how things were different when we started, go back and listen to episode 1, and it'll be like, holy shit, times are different.
Yeah.
Early pandemic, episode 1.
And shout out to Pod Sauce if you didn't catch our
that was
episode.
Cool.
On Pod Sauce, where it's a podcast review podcast where they get a bunch of podcasts that are up and coming or doing really well, like ours, and we were interviewed by them, and it was great. It's on their Twitter page. They posted it. They wrote a whole article about us. It's on their site, Pod Sauce. It's sponsored by Odyssey. So
yes, which is a cool idea for podcasts too, to do one too, not just to show us, but just to show all different up and coming new shows that you can get into, if it's sports, mysteries, narratives, all of it. It's a cool idea. That was fun to do. We kind of tell our histories. That was cool.
Podsauce.com. Check it out. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. All right, this has been episode 126. Bad Weather Fans. We get into the Knicks and Media Day. We get into Kevin Durant and all trade possibilities, if that shit's gonna happen. You heard all of it. We're having a blast doing this. So Alex, maybe some guests for episodes in the future that we're working on, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we got some coming. Well, we got some more in the tank.
Yeah. Well, I can't say who because I can't do that, but there's one, and there's a good stories involved, but we can't go quite there yet. But it'll be a good story to tell once we get there.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
All right. Episode 126 of Bad Weather Fans. Alex, have a good night, man.
You too.